If you think you've been seeing a lot more acorns on the ground this fall, you would be correct. The Texas A&M Forest Service says the trees are going through a phenomenon known as masting.
Phenomenon. Wow. Every year, trees overactively produce nuts or fruit. This time, it's happening with oak trees in central Texas, and it might have to do with the weather.
That's why meteorologist Grace Thornton took a field trip today to learn more about this acorn situation.
Acorns, acorns, and more acorns. This fall, the Austin area has been just covered in them. And while it certainly is not unusual to see acorns in the fall, this season has been a little nuts.
Once they're ready, they just pop right out of the shell.
We met up with an expert, Jonathan Motzinger, from the Texas A&M Forest Service. He heads the office here in Central Texas. He says this Armageddon of acorns, or masting, as foresters call it, isn't totally uncommon.
A mast year is what we call it. And that happens usually every 3 to 5 years. The other years they still put on seed. You can still find acorns and pecans and all that on the off years. But then there's just, like, for whatever reason, a really big boom year with lots and lots of acorns. Besides the general 3 to 5 year cycle that they track, the phenomenon is a bit of a mystery. So this is another live oak, yeah. You can see it's definitely suffering from some drought stress from this summer. The canopy is thin, there's not as many leaves as you would expect. However, a lot of times in the case of nature, this long trail of acorns leads back to our wild Texas weather. So that's kind of one line of thinking is we had a big drought last year. We had favorable conditions in the spring, and then we got rain at just the right time, kind of the end of the fall. So those are some contributing factors, not necessarily everything that has to do with it, but definitely some things that are at play here. Basically, good or bad conditions in the weather can lead an oak tree to drop tons of acorns, ensuring that their population lives on. Interestingly enough, this mast of 2023, Motzinger says, is a mix of that. So it's kind of an interesting paradox where some trees were able to maintain those acorns and are now having kind of an abundance, whereas some of them did end up losing their acorns early. And what we're also seeing is that the acorn production is a little bit delayed this year from what we would normally expect. So if the acorns have been driving you a little nuts this fall, give your yard a good cleanup before they have the chance to pop back up in the spring. In Austin, Grace Thornton, KVUE News.